So I just want to thank you guys for having me here. I live on the East Coast now. I live in New York, but I was born in Berkeley, lived in Oakland, so it's awesome to see you guys doing such great things with social media and technology. So just a little bit more about me. I've had a long career in improving the way that government works for people. Most recently, I was a Presidential Innovation Fellow, which was my first experience actually working on the inside of government. This is not like every day at the office here. But while I was there in DC, I kind of saw that while our open government community was pouring tons of effort into civic engagement, the software that government employees were using on the inside on a daily basis was absolutely terrifying. So when my fellowship was over, another fellow, Clay Johnson, and I decided to start the Department of Better Technology, a company that builds back office software for government. And so this talk is just a short narrative about my time in the civic tech space and about a trend that we're kind of starting to see more and more. It's called We're Doing It Backwards. So let's go back to 2008 really quickly. 2008 was a wonderful year if you were both into technology and government. The president got elected, and with him came the explicit promise that we would harness technology to confront the biggest challenges that America faces. And he did some pretty great stuff just right off the bat. Data.gov was launched. Federal agencies, for the first time, started putting their open data online. The president created this new role inside of the White House called the Federal Chief Technology Officer. That's Anish Chopra there. He was the first. Todd Park, if you guys have heard of him, he's the new CTO in the White House. And Code for America launched and started bringing those ideas down to local government as well. So the term civic hacker, which many of you are probably familiar with, was finally born. People started creating these civic apps for the first time. I created one. It was called GovHub. We tried to get people to connect with their local politicians on issues that matter to them, which doesn't seem to happen too often. So fast forward though to 2014. Where are we at now? What civic app are we all using today, and what kind of engagement with government can we just not get enough of? And sometimes, when talking to my friends, it seems like the only people that are aware of this work that's being done are those of us that are already plugged into this community. So take, for example, my parents that live here in Berkeley still. When I tell them that I gave a talk in front of all you awesome people at the Alameda County Social Media Forum, are they going to immediately be like, oh yeah, I'm Alameda County Social Media, I totally follow them on Twitter. And meanwhile, the gap between government and the private sector is just getting larger and larger. Moore's law, in the simplest terms, just states that technology is advancing at an exponential pace. And because those advances are exponential, that gap will only continue to widen unless we change something. So the meaning of 5 years behind is just going to become more and more important. And this manifests itself constantly in our daily lives as citizens. The basic functions of government aren't working well enough. And as our experiences with technology get better and better, we just become more and more dissatisfied when government can't keep up. Just the other day, Clay was complaining that we had to get this document notarized. And then Alex, our coworker, actually showed us this website where you can get a document notarized online via video chat with like a real notary public. But meanwhile, for us to send a proposal to one of our potential government clients, we have to print 4 copies of it, burn one onto a CD-ROM, mail it to the office, which is sometimes really ironic too, because it'll be like a proposal for a new IT system, a new website, and we're writing "do not open" on the envelopes, and converting from Google Docs to Microsoft Word so we can submit it as a Microsoft Word document. So until this is fixed, governments might want to be less concerned with the number of fans and more concerned with being efficient machines that make everyone happy. Both citizens and their employees alike. And I might add that social media is a great way to do that. But we can go outside right now and ask people what they want from their government. And I guarantee you, though, the top answer is not going to be to connect with them on social media, but that they want the basic functions of government to work really well. And whether that's through using social media or not, it doesn't matter to them. They don't want new entertainment in the line at the DMV. They just want that line to be shorter. They want to easily figure out which business permits their business needs and be able to get those permits online without printing and mailing a PDF. This is what most government forms look like on the left. And on the right, the screen door, which is actually, this is the one shamelessly promotional slide in this deck. It's our software for building online forums, but it doesn't just focus on the citizen user experience. It also helps manage the back-end review workflow to cut down on the processing time. People want their governments to harness the power of technology to do things like make sure their CalFresh benefits don't cut off without warning. This is Promptly. This is a project by 2013 Code for America fellows that used SMS alerts to keep food stamp recipients from forgetting to renew their subscriptions. This is the family assessment form. This is software that isn't even used by anybody except social services agencies. But by providing those agencies and their employees with great technology, this software is dramatically improving lives in the communities that they serve. So in a way, I'm kind of advocating that we go back to basics. The core functions of government haven't really changed, but the tools and technology have. And governments are just barely scratching the surface when it comes to using modern technology. And as a citizen, sometimes this is really disappointing, but as a software developer and entrepreneur, it's extremely exciting. It means there are these huge margins in building great technology for government. And it's almost like the last frontier for startups. And it's something that we should be working to promote to the local startup and small business community. So when someone asks me why I started the Department of Better Technology, the answer is really easy because there's just so many opportunities to get excited about when you're working with government. You can save time for both govies and citizens. You can save money, which there are tons of examples of. Simply by switching to Google Apps, the District of Columbia saved $5 million over a few years. And then our small RFP Easy pilot, this is the project that I worked on in DC. We saved an average of 30% on these 5 IT projects that we've done through this new system that we produced. You can make better, more informed decisions. So there's actually companies building tools that not only help you publish your data, but actually make sense of it. And I think we're going to be hearing from one of them after I speak. A couple examples though that I have are Outline.com, which is this great tool. It's a budget visualization tool, but not only does it help you visualize the current budget, it actually helps you make changes and see what the impacts of those changes would be. And one that I'd love to see in government too is called Lumio.org, which is actually it's software that's built for decision making to help groups collaborate on decisions. But most importantly, technology can help us deliver better services to citizens, and we can restore their trust and faith in government. So assuming that you guys are following along, that I haven't gone completely off the rails and you were expecting me to talk about how best to get hashtags and followers on Twitter, the next question you might ask would be, what's stopping us from doing this? And in one word, the answer would be procurement. I mean, you really should have known when she invited me, based on my history, that I was going to talk about procurement. So the current experience of trying to develop software for government is keeping people away from the space and ensuring that government is stuck behind the rest of the world. It's virtually impossible for a small business, a small technology company, to work with any level of government just because of the sheer number of hoops they have to jump through. These tech companies don't know where to find RFPs, they don't know how to bid on them, they don't have employees whose sole job it is to bid on them, and they don't have on-staff lawyers ready to negotiate the terms of a government contract. And it's not just these small companies, actually, it's even bigger companies just aren't willing to put in the number of hours it takes to contract with the government. It's just not worth it to them. It almost seems like the only companies willing to put up with these processes are the ones that are explicitly built to do government contracting. And the problem with them is that they're much better at winning the contracts than they are at delivering the results. So healthcare.gov is kind of the classic example of this, where the only companies allowed to bid on this contract were these 11 companies that had previously won a contract, an IDIQ contract with the Department of Health and Human Services. But when the site was launched, all it took was any of us doing a simple view source in the web browser to realize that these companies probably had a lot of great lawyers, but not just one competent programmer. So a common pushback that we hear to this stuff is, it's all right, these companies, these small companies, they're not really ready for government work. But the thing is, in today's world, the companies making some of the best and most reliable software are not the Oracles and IBMs of the world. They're actually small 20-person firms. Here's an example. When I was a presidential innovation fellow, our team tried to get Basecamp, which is arguably the best project management software out there. And we were told that the Basecamp terms of service were not federally compatible. So instead of trying to work out a solution with their parent company, we should just use OMBmax instead. And it's not clear OMBmax is that one on the right. It's kind of small, but I haven't brought it up on my phone. I'm guessing it's not mobile friendly, usable on a phone, and it was we couldn't get Basecamp. I can tell another story though that hits a little closer to home, which is that last year here in Oakland, a Code for America fellowship team developed Record Track, which was this app for public records requests. Citizens might know it just as a public records request app, but to Govies, Record Track was an application that helped Oakland process over 2,000 public records requests and save hundreds of thousands of dollars compared to the previous solution. It received really high praise from the government officers that were using it. You can see that quote. It's basically just like, it's the best thing ever. It helps me do my job. I love it. Even furthermore, Becker Track is an open source application, which means that it's easy to install and customize for any government across the world. And those fellows, they went on to create a consultancy to help support the applicant. All of these governments were showing them serious interest, but the last time I talked to them, they actually just still had 0 paying customers. And that was just zero governments had yet to figure out how to pay them. And once we enable these small groups of programmers to sell to local government in a way that minimizes the number of hoops they have to jump through, the payoff's going to be humongous. In executing these basic functions of government, like public requests, executing them well will create citizens who are more likely to engage with government. So this is what I mean when I say that we've been doing it backwards. Sometimes the best way that the technology community can innovate around government isn't to create new and entertaining ways for people to engage with government online. It's to start with a focus on the bureaucrat and find new ways to make their lives easier. To spark this innovation, government needs to get better at procuring the right solutions from the right companies. So then, and only then, once we improve the performance of government, once interaction with government no longer happens with a CD-ROM or by standing in line, and instead it's online forums and video chat, then citizens might feel more comfortable getting involved, and civic engagement will finally become a reality. So, thank you. That's my presentation.